Hey everybody, this is Jesse. Today's video is sponsored by OneStop Mart. Whether you need to grab your favorite beverage or tobacco product, they've got the best selection in town and the friendliest service around. You walk in and it's like cheers. Everybody knows your name. So next time you're in Lewiston, swing on by OneStop Mart and tell Jag we sent you. Hey OC Valley, this is Jesse. So I'm here with Rhonda and we're actually going to show everybody how to do a FOI request. And this specific request is going to be because of the tax assessment issues that everybody's facing in Assessor County right now. So first step, FOI request to get the information on...
we are requesting what properties actually have been assessed in 2024 and where those properties are. Are they Assessor County? Are they in the city of Clarkston? Which ones have been done so far? So we want to get that information so that we know what we're looking at. How are they assessing these properties? So lots of different information is exactly what we're looking for.
That's the key point right here, is how are they being assessed? What did they base the new assessments on? And that's what we aim to find out. So come with us real quick, and we're going to show the process on how to do a FOI request.
Let's.
I'm loud, don't worry. Okay, let's see.
Yep.
Here we go. I would like to request the paperwork for a FOI to get some information, a FOI request.
A FOIA request?
Mm-hmm. Do you know how to do that process or how I would do it?
I don't.
So a FOIA request is a Freedom of Information Act. Okay. And so we need to fill one out to access public records on the properties that have been assessed in 2024.
Public information.
You would go over to the new courthouse over there.
Okay.
And that's where you would put in your request.
The second story building over here. All right,
Okay.
Cool. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Okay, so now we're going over to the new courthouse building. I don't even know what it's called. The new annex building, that's what it is. The new annex building where the assessors and the county commissioners are at. Round two, ding ding. So we're over at the new annex building, which is where the county commissioners and the assessors are at upstairs. So we're gonna go upstairs and ask them some questions. So come on. There should be a stairs or an elevator.
Whoops.
To closed door. You broke it.
I didn't touch it.
There it goes.
I didn't touch nothing.
So we went over to the assessor's office over on that one, and they did not know how to do a FOIA request. So they told us to come over here. So that's why we're here.
Looking at doing a public records request?
Yes, ma'am.
I have a form here you can fill out.
That was so coincidental.
I keep them outside. Actually, I've been doing them all day, so.
Well, we want specifically, are you allowed to give any guidance on how we would go about getting a FOIA request for?
We want to specifically ask for records for the assessments of what properties were assessed in 2024.
Okay.
And
So
then
know which areas they did,
which
and
areas,
how they
and then
did
we
it.
want copies of those assessed values, how they derived at the assessments that they did.
Of each one?
Well, not so much each one, but the guidelines of which they followed to get those values.
Yeah. So we're gonna actually.
i.e., was it from previous sales of the area of houses around the area, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So we are going to actually request, yes, a handful of those. How many of those that we've determined, we don't know yet. We're trying to find a pattern. We'd like to make sure that pattern is consistent. So we really want to do some checks and balances here. Some of this stuff isn't making sense. Misinformation is being given to, one person versus another. So we're trying to clean this whole thing up for the citizens, here local. And so we do know that we can apply for that if this is newsworthy to get rid of all those fees.
Right.
So we want to make sure that we're getting the right paperwork.
Right. It says right here at the bottom of it. So just to let you know.
No, gotcha.
So, is there a separate application paper that I can fill out as being from a news outlet or media?
I would just need documentation of the
So
employment for
the credentials.
So there isn't really any documentations per se required, like a specific thing, proclaiming and what we do as already show that actually satisfies the requirement. So I can say that I am media, and the proof is of what the stuff that we've done. So what exact documentation are you requiring?
So this is the first for me because I haven't. Normally, media is really easy. Somebody from the paper calls
Right.
says I need this, and I go here, sure. That's an easy one.
Right.
What we could do is I could maybe research where you post or
Okay,
what
yeah.
everything is, and
To validate
it's
it.
a valid.
Absolutely.
Source.
I'll give you that information before we leave. What's the timeline for response? Because it actually is important because they give a 30.
5-day letter that we send out, so we have to respond saying, hey, we got it
Okay.
within 5 days. And depending on the depth of the records you're requesting, that will depict the time.
Right, there's a reasonable amount, a reasonable time expected depending on how much information.
Yeah, and
I
how
totally
much
get
you have
that.
to-
So I do have a question here. This is a county FOIA request. This isn't for the the state of Washington
No, it's
FOIA
not.
request.
No.
Okay, so the rules are different.
This is ours. If you want state of Washington records, you'll have to request them from the state of Washington.
Could we get everything we need from their requests?
We'll take it home and look at it. So
Okay.
it's not a state thing that we're requesting, but Washington State has its own FOIA request that you use
For the state of Washington.
for requesting public records.
We do a public disclosure request. It's
Okay.
not necessarily a Freedom of Information
Right.
Act. Those are different.
Right.
The public records are any paperwork or documents we have related to doing business as a county.
We didn't know exactly. We wanted to make sure we did it your way.
Okay, yeah, we
You
can
know
do
what I
it.
mean?
I do it by email too.
Okay.
I can take an email request. It doesn't necessarily have to be on this form.
Okay.
Just a good description of what the documents you're looking for
Okay.
will work for me. And let me find the right email address because I have 3.
So how many properties would you say were assessed in 2024?
I wouldn't know.
Gotcha. Okay.
Because I'm the clerk to the Board of Commissioners and HR,
Okay.
but I don't actually have anything. Well, actually, I do take the appeals for the Board of Equalization, but I don't actually have.
How much would you think? I don't know if you're allowed to say or anything like that, but would you say people have taken advantage of the appeal process for their newest assessments?
We have had
Quite a
few.
bit. If a person puts a request in, what is the average amount of time that they would hear back for their dispute
Appeal.
or their appeal?
The appeal, it takes a little while because we're small. So first we'll review them for accuracy. From there, we start scheduling the hearings. Most of the time, the hearings don't start until like February or March.
I have
So the
two
people that filed like this appeal like 30 days ago, 20 days ago, 15 days ago, what would be a good assumption of time for them to expect in February
The hearing
with no problems? So about February?
a few months.
Yeah.
It depends on
Okay.
things, honestly.
But there's a stop at the time they apply for
Yes,
that.
Yeah.
So they don't
I
have to-
have your
okay.
thing. It's
Nice.
you still have to pay your taxes.
Correct.
But if the Board of Equalization chooses to change your evaluation, that would, like if you do the first
Right.
half, that would still apply for the whole thing. So
It would just be adjusted later.
it'd be adjusted, and you would the second half would not be as big as the
Okay.
first half.
If the first assessor made his judgment call and then there's a review that's required, does a separate assessor review it at that point, or is it a board that reviews the assessor's decision? And then on top of that, a lot of people have spoken a worry about an increase in their tax value. So say almost like a punishment, if you try to appeal it, then they might make it worth more, so then you just kind of shot yourself in the foot. Is there any kind of verbiage that says, in the event you do an appeal and they do dictate it's going to be a higher amount?
In my head, it is on the taxpayer to prove that the assessor's assessment is wrong.
Okay, so burden of proof falls on the taxpayer to show that it's wrong.
To show that it's wrong.
Okay.
In the history that I've been here, it has not gone over what the assessor has said.
Okay.
So I'm not really feeling like my question was answered. A lot of it.
I don't have a strict timeline.
Okay, so a lot of the reason why we're here is because we have a lot of people in this community who are being taxed out of their homes. So for us to be able to tell these people what they might be anticipating would actually offer some sort of comfort, but it's very discomforting to know that we have an office that is in control of our taxes or assessing the value of our homes to turn around and tell us, I can't give you a timeline when that process is over.
For the assessment process or
For the appeal process. So that's something that I guess, you know, when you want to talk to people and you want to explain to people, okay, when you do the appeal process, most places have timelines. Okay, so it's going to be 30 days, it's going to be 45 days, it's going to be 2 months, it's going to be one.
If we had a dedicated office for Board of Equalization, that might be the case.
Okay.
But as it is, you know, a duty on top of the clerk to the Board of Commissioners, the entire HR department for the county, as
Right.
well as the clerk to Board of Equalization, unfortunately, it has to fit in.
So that's the key points here. You get the paperwork in, the clock stops.
Yeah. Yeah, you definitely have
And
to
the
get
thing
that.
is it's not very user-friendly when it's 30 days of the date of the mailing, not
Right.
when you receive it. So your timeline is very small,
Right.
Your timeline is very small.
very small.
She wasn't understanding what I'm saying. So she handed you county paperwork, right?
Well, she said that goes for both. It'll count.
Right. So the county paperwork is different than the Washington state paperwork. So when you're that Washington state paperwork, the FOIA request is for anything in the
Right.
state of Washington. And so I don't think she
She
was.
said that was more financials than this.
No, it's not. It's a FOIA request for the state of Washington. It's public records, it's anything. I read the whole entire thing on it. So I don't think that she was understanding that.
Right.
Because that is where you get that they don't charge you for any of the papers. But she did say, you know,
Yeah.
hopefully. So hopefully she's going to go ahead and waive those charges. That's one of the requests, is a list
Right.
of all properties that were assessed in 2024.
It'll give us a whole list. Let's ask the community. So we have a couple ideas. We either get a request for every single property that was assessed, or we can kind of start figuring out a pattern. We can request a certain amount per zone or per area in Clarkston, like say Clarkston Heights versus another, you know, part of Clarkston or the county. But in order to get a timely response, we can't inundate them with 10,000, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. And so as we were discussing in there, we really want to do like the checks and balances. We want to make sure that your property is assessed the same as my property, the same as his property. We want to make sure that your neighbors are in line with you. And so this is what we're trying to do to get a pattern of how they are assessing these properties. Are they pulling them from Zillow? Are they saying, well, this one over here looks like it's worth that, so we're going to make this one over here worth that as well?
Because this one over here sold for that.
So this is what our investigation is entailing. So if you have any feedback for us, what you would like us to see, reach out for this FOIA request, please let us know so that we can get that when we turn in our paperwork.
And just to
So-
clarify, this is the county request. This is a Stoughton County Public Records request, which is a little bit different than a FOIA, the federal request. That
Correct.
would be the state request on a state level. So if this doesn't work, or we find out that this doesn't work, we were told it would work to get the information we want. But if it doesn't, then we would actually need to file a actual
A FOIA request.
FOIA request.
Yes.
So stay tuned and we'll let you know what happens. Peace.